Okay. Now, let's pick up. We spoke about very interesting things in this mitzvah, the mitzvah of kiddushin. Okay, Reishud Gimel. Let me just read it from the beginning. And what I'd like to do is pick up where we left off. Okay. HaMitzvah sholish esrei umosayim hishet zivonu liv'ol b'kiddushin. I guess is to have ishas through kiddushin or something like that. Or and we spoke about that kiddushin shalom and us to have ishus is a meaningless thing. I mean, it's certainly not a mitzvah. We showed other achronim say that very clearly. Veloses or loses dovo biyada isha. That's kesef, or bishtar, or bibir. So the three options of this thing called kiddushin. And liv'ol b'kiddushin, I assume, is not the same b as before. This means if which really is not enough translation of the words. We spoke about the Arabic issues and everything the last time, but we're talking about that ishas should be with kiddushin. Vizu he mitzvahs kiddushin. The mitzvah kiddushin is to have these kinyonim. V'lem is olav omrei. We discussed maybe there are two psukim, Madu Kam, Madu Basra, where there was an extra pasuk, and even Eov, which got excised in later editions, in Ibn Tibbin and in the Ksav Yad itself, and in Kapach. I just saw something which I'm not going to comment on it, but it actually blew my mind. If you look in the Pirush Mishnayos, and this is just a comment, and it's basically opening up an opportunity for a lot of questions, and I don't have any answers, so I'm not going to accept them. So in Pirush Mishnayos, I pointed out to you that he originally said that you learn out the B of kiddushin from kiyikach ish isha or bo eleho usneya or bo oleho usneya, something like that. Bo oleho usneya. So in Madua Basra, he says kiyikach ish isha or bo eleho. Uba'ala, he crossed out Usneya and he put in Uba'ala. There's no such pasuk, but it really, maybe it's a reference to both psukim. I have no clue. But the amazing thing is, in one of the Ksavs, I thought it was a mistake. I don't know, maybe should have counted. In one of the Kisvei Yad and Ksav Yad Oxford, in one of the folios of Ksav Yad Oxford, the same exact thing in the Madua Basra, in Pirush Mishnayos, is also over here. Kiyikach ish isha uba eleha uba'ala, which is really an amazing, difficult thing. And I have nothing to say about it. But you see, I thought there was something should have been crossed out. It wasn't crossed out because there's no such pasuk. But if you find, when you find lightning strikes twice in one place, so there's an accident. But if the same thing happens in two different places, you have to ask yourself, what's going on? And maybe he's referring to both psukim. It was like a shorthand. I'm not sure what happened. Okay? That's just food for thought, and I don't have nothing to say. That's King Bila. One. The Omar, that's King Bila. The Omar, the Yotzav Oiso, Ki Kamo, Shayitzia Bishtar, Kain Ahavaya Bishtar. It's a hekish. Over Ki Kamo, Shayitzia Bishtar, Kach Ahavaya Bishtar. So, Chayra, this is Yud Gimel Midas, and it's a Sifri. The Sifri says in Kashki Seitze, in Piskaresh Samuches, V'yotzi v'hoysa li'ish achim makish havayosel lezer liyitziasa mizeh. Ma yitziasa mizeh b'shtar, af havoyosa lezeh b'shtar. Okay. Then there's another drasha. Ukmo kain lo madnu, shehi niknis b'kesef. Me'omroi, b'omroi v'riya, ein kesef. Ein kesef lo zeh, אבל יש כסף לאדם אחר. ומנו אב. So here is kesef Kiddushin is also a drasha. The kinyan of shtar is a drasha, and the kinyan of kesef is a drasha, but the kinyan of bia is not a drasha. That's what it seems at the moment, and that's what he seems to be saying. And that's what he says. Avol, and Avol is in contrast. Avol, Kiddushin deraisa. Omnom, Haim, Mivuolim, Haim is going on Kiddushin. Kiddushin is Lashon Rabbi. Avol Kiddushin deraisa, Omnom, Haim, Mivuolim, Sheheim bebia. Okay, so we know that Kiddushin deraisa is bebia, which we'll talk about soon. This is like an amazing thing. Kiddushin deraisa is bebia, and then the Ram does something which I didn't see people talking about, but I think it's real. Veheim muvuolim sheheim bebia, kimo shehisboye b'mekoymos miksuvos v'kiddushin benida. So l'cheira, the Ram is saying we have proof from Ksuvos, Kiddushin, and Nida that Kiddushin Bia are deraisa. L'cheira, it's the word say. I think. Okay. And this is going to create a problem. We'll see. We'll come back to Shtar and Kesef. We'll see. But, this is what he says. So let's go slowly. So Ksuvos, the like Ksuvos of Kiddushin Bia is Minatera, is from the Gemara in Ksuvos Daf Gimel and Aleph. And this will be very interesting. Call, I think, unless you have a different Gemara in Ksuvos, call the Mekadesh, Adaita the Rabbanon Mekadesh. V'afkinu Rabbanon the Kiddushin Mineh. Kesef. Omalei Ravina Ravashi Tenach the Kodesh Bekaspo Kodesh Bebia My Ikalame. Well, interesting, leaves out Shtar, but it's Kesef. Kesef is okay. Dafkino Abona Kedusha Mehe. But Bia, how can it happen? So Rashi quotes B'Shema B'Isov there in Ksuvas Gimel and Aleph. Dima Shabon Abona Shamati. Call Rabbi side, Mefoshim, the Kodesh Bekaspo, the Kiddushe, the Rabbonon Ninhu. So then it means the Kiddushe Kesef the Rabbonon, and B is the Raisa. So it's mefulish, exactly what he wanted to say. But Rashi doesn't learn like that. And there's a different shot. And then I'm not getting involved in Birkas Avrom, the Rambam's son in Siman Mem Dalet. He has another shot in this Gemara Ksuvos. But if you learn like that, so you got the first part. Kamoshi's boy b'mekoymos miksuvos. That Kiddushin Kesef is the Rabbanon, and Bia is the Raisa. Whatever that means. Okay, I'm just trying to wade through the text, and then before we talk. Then he says, not only can you learn from Maseches Ksuvos, you can also learn from Maseches Kiddushin. And what does it mean, Maseches Kiddushin? L'cheira daf tesam and beis uba'alo melamed sheniknes mebiyah. And that is the maskana of the Gemara. And then Bala melamed sheniknas mebia that ukiyakach ishu bala is that the derech kinyan that's mefurish in the pasuk is bia, and the Ram learns like this. But with further, we'll see about it Mitzvah Hashem later in the his Teshuvas Rambam. Okay, so you have. So now we're okay. We have Ksuvos and we have Kiddushin. Okay. The problem is neither. Neither. What is he talking about? Neither. That only Kiddushin B is the Raisa. So I looked around. I had an idea. I looked around. And I saw something like the idea I had. I found in Frankel Rambam they quote the Mishnah in Nida on Perek Mishnah Dalet. Bas shol shona v'yom echad miskadesh is mebia v'imbo oleho yavom kana v'chayom oleho mishum eisis ish. So, what's the raya that only Kiddushin Bia the rice? It just happens to be talking about Bia. And what do we see? So I don't know if you remember. I spoke last week, I think, and I pointed out that l'cheira, even in Kedusha Kesef, the Ram never entertained the idea that you're not chayiv misa. You see the double negative for Kedusha Bia. And we quoted the Rambam in Perek Aleph because the issues halacha beis and gimel, that you get the impression that in all the different Darkei Kinyan you chayiv misa or shish zinsa. The Ramban in Shiur Sheni, the way he interprets the Rambam is Kedusha Kesef and Shtar are the Rabbanon, and there's no Chiyuv Misa. Which is not a Ram Mishnah Torah. That's what he says. Elu Divi Arab, that's the Rambam, V'yoytzi B'dvor, Shemiskadeshes B'kesef Eino B'skilu. So then it comes out, according to this, that someone who's miskadesh b'kesef is not chayiv misa. So maybe then you could say that the Mishnah in Nida is saying that only this case is chayiv misa, but that doesn't say only case. So this is very odd, but I'm just telling you in the text it says of a kiddushin daraisa omnom heim b'boim shein b'bir komoshis boim b'koimos miksuvos v'kiddushin v'nida. Now let's go back. So this is what we have, just the text, okay? Ram starts off at the beginning. HaMitzvos sholish esrei u'mosai, each one of them b'kiddushin. And l'cher, it's like a colon. And the vav is certainly the Eov is not there. The seis he has is the colon. And what are the three ways of kiddushin? Lo says dov dova b'yad isha, o b'shtar, o b'bir. V'zuhi mitzvahs kiddushin. So a priori, reading the Rambam, you would assume that the mitzvahs kiddushin is in all three options. And then he goes around to say, of a Kiddushin Daraisa, Omnam He Muvorim Shein Bebia. So what was he talking about before? See here, I think I might have mentioned it last week, and if I didn't, I'm mentioning it now. Biskurov, if you work with his assumption, at least you can begin to talk here. Biskurov Zichron Levacha, in his piece in Hilchos Machos Asuris, we differentiate between all and Einain. He says that the etzem mitzvah, when you want to mechadish a mitzvah, you need a pasuk. But however, if you want to expand the mitzvah that includes other things beyond the pasuk, you can use Yud Gimel Midas. Yud Gimel Midas in Shorish Beis cannot be mechadish a mitzvah. But if you have a mitzvah, then you can use Yud Gimel Midas to expand. So then the Rambam is very good over here that the mitzvah's Kiddushin could be with kesef, shtar, and beer. That, however, only, and that's important for the Rambam, that Kedushin beer is the Raisa. Because the Kedushin beer would not be a Raisa, you have nothing to expand. So it's very important. But Kedushin Deraisa, Omnam Heim Mevorim Shein Bebir. This Rabbi Sai is very simplistic, but I want to start again from the beginning, and let's see something here. Okay. The Rambam, in many places, it seems to be something which occupied his mind, both in Pirush Mishnayis and in Minyan HaMitzvos and in Mishnah Torah and in Tshuvas Rambam. He's going back and forth discussing which of the kinyonim are deraisa in Kiddushin and which are not deraisa. The question is, why is the Rambam so interested in this? So, if you accept it's like this, if you accept what I said from Biskarov, all the Rambam then has to do is have a Josh for Yud Gimel Midas, and he's set for Shtar and Kesef, and he has to prove that Kedushin B is the Raisa. And Kedushin Kesef is not the Raisa. And that's the Rambam says in Mishnah Torah, that Kedushin Tes is Ika midivrei Torah, u'piyusha midivrei Sefer. But this, I'm still assuming at the moment that if someone is, since we're extending the mitzvah, this is Kedushin and everything, an Isha who's miskadeshes be kesef. And even in Mishnah Torah, in Perek Gimel Achachaf, the Rambam had he's constantly, if you remember, I mentioned last week that there was a Madura Kaman Pirush Mishnayis in Kiddushin and a Madura Basra. Okay, there's also Madura Kaman and a Madura Basra in Mishnah Torah proper. And the Rambam Perek Gimel Achachaf in Madura Kaman, he writes the Kesef is divrei, the Kinyan Kesef is divrei Sefer. And probably he thought that someone could make a mistake that Divrei Seifrim is Mashim Lekdushin is the Rabbanon. V'ish is in Seinu Chayiv Misa. So then the Ram writes and changed it. V'chein HaKesef din Teira u'pirusha mi Divrei Seifrim. The Chalos HaKedushin is the Raisa. But the Kesef is learned mi Divrei Seifrim from a Drasha. And that's why it's called Divrei Seifrim. It's Ram Pirush Mishnayis in Kalim, in Perek Yud Zayin, Mishnah Yud Beis, that he says the word Divrei Seifrim can learn not only on the Rabbanons, but on the Raisa, which is not Mefurish and Chor. So then you have Biskov Shtikl Teir. It's all very nice that Biskov says in Machos Asus, Perek Gim, Perek Beis, Halachav Gimel, that you can expand the mitzvah, the ashoris of Achilas Ma'aser Sheni Ba'aninus, Loisase Kufnan Aleph, Derech Kal V'Chomer, that it can include Achilas Oinein in Kochim. And you like it on Achilas Kochim Ba'aninus. So in Mishnah Torah, we got to go again now. Why does he talk about? Excuse me. Why does he talk about it Sefer Mitzvah? I have to worry about other things later. In Sefer Mitzvahs, the first thing is I explained for Biskarov that you have to have Kesef has to be deraisa, and if Kesef is not deraisa, we have no mitzvah. But since Kesef is deraisa, you can expand it to other things. So that is very nice. There's another option. I don't know if I mentioned, but I'll mention it again now. Here it is. Yeah. There is in Halachas Gedolos, there's a mitzvah of Kiddushin and Gerushin and Parshas, okay? In Rav Sadi going, in his Minyan HaMitzvos, which is published from Geniza, HaPerek Asiri, on page 83, HaPerek Asiri, mitzvahs or ishus, the mitzvahs which are about the relations with women. Reishis chayvoisov, shoish mekadesh esoisha bekesef, shtar ubir, usholish hamitzvahs halolu, nilmadu min hakosov bekabola, ki oimer ki yikach ish isha, v'kitzer, I guess kitzer kos. So, a Sadi Goin has 3 mitzvahs. But since Minyan HaMitzvos is Torah Shebeksav Pirush Mekubal, you see, let's start like this before. The 2 points here. Point number 1 is that Rav Sadi Goin is impossible. You see, if you're postulating a mitzvah based on Kinyan Bia and you're expanding the mitzvah to include Kesef and Shtar, and it's all one mitzvah, that makes sense. But if 2 of the 3 Kinyanim are B'divrei Seifrim, you cannot possibly have 3 mitzvahs. So l'cheira, the mitzvah's kiddushin is not 2 mitzvahs for 2 reasons. You have shurish vi, the various permutations of one mitzvah is all one mitzvah. Like you have korban oil v'yored, you have ashiras, dalus, and dali dalus. It's all one mitzvah. Maybe he's arguing there with Tzaddik also. So even if there's 3 ways of doing Kiddushin, it couldn't have been 3 mitzvahs even if they were Fush B'Kra. And even if you deny Shiur Shvi, and you say that permutations can be separate mitzvahs, but over here it's impossible. Because 2 of the 3 are only Midivri Sefer. Okay. That's what we have. I'll get back to this and want to talk a little bit more. I just want to tell you what the problem is. This all makes sense when your frame of reference is Minyan HaMitzvos. You want to understand the mitzvah. That's all beautiful. However, if your frame of reference is Pirush Mishnayos, why is this important? The Raisa, not the Raisa, Fush B'Kra. So maybe in Pirush Mishnayos you can sell someone that the Pirush HaMishnah, he's trying to tell you they're different kinyonim mentioned, try to how you derive them. So he says this one is in the pasuk and this one is more a drasha. Okay, that's all very nice. When you come to Mishnah Torah, where the Rambam is very clear that according to all opinions, whether it's whether it's King Kesef or Shtar or Bia, Yechayiv Misa, that's the way the Rambam works out. Perek Aleph, Halacha Beis, and Gimel. So why in the world is he talking so much about whether the Kinyan is Ika Midivrisoy or Pusha Midivrisoy or not? What difference does it make? Now, I'd like to discuss 2 other points here. You see, for example, we have in Kesef Halves Ami and the Mevis Rishus, and we have a Sifri learning that it's Chayiv. And we have and then you have also you have Mizbach Adomo, in Mizbach Adomo, Mizbach Avonim. And you have also you have Stoker. So it could be that the Pirush Makubal learns that there's a mitzvah and im might be interpreted as when or something like that. Now maybe. But the question is that since we said that even though the pasuk seems to be telling a sipur dvorim of kiddushin, okay, and it's really interested either in telling you something about Motzi Shemra or telling you something about Gerushin or telling you something about the Simach, Shonachas. But in Pshuta Shel Mikra, there's no mitzvah. It could be that the Kiddushin, we can learn in Pshuta Shel Mikra that there's Kedusha Kesef, but we don't know there's a mitzvah. So the way we learn the mitzvah, if you recall, is because of the bracha. And the Ram learns that it's a birchas mitzvah. We don't learn birchas mitzvah is a kiyum, the seder. So I just have one question. A pirush makubal is pshat and posel. So how do you read the pasuk as a sipur dvarim telling you something about Motzi Shemra, telling you something about Gerushin, or telling you the pasuk something about Besimach, and at the same time there's a mitzvah to marry. So, one might claim that, maybe the Pshuta Shamika and the Pirish Makubal might not have to go to square with each other. As the Ram says, remember Mitzvah Chav, that the Pshuta Shamika in Mizbach Adom Taseli is referring to Bomo, B'shas Heta Bomos. And then later, not later with the Pirush Makubal, it means you need a Mizbech HaMachubal Adomo. And both are Kayin. And it means the Mizbach should be. So is it possible that the Pirush Makubal should reinterpret the pasuk? And you have in Pshuta Shemikra, it means X, and it means Y in the Pirush Makubal. And furthermore, even if you're ready to accept, you can have this discrepancy. I have a problem. If you recall, the Pirush Mishnayos is Zroyim, that the Ram says that a Pirush Makubal has to have a source in Torah Shebiksav. Either you see it, the pasuk is miramis to it, or derech Yud Gimel Midas. So here, l'chayra, there's a Pirush Makubal, there's a mitzvah. Where do you see in the pasuk a remes to Pirush Makubal? And if you're going to say the opposite, that it's only a Kabbalah and not a Pirush Makubal, it's a Kabbalah Baal Peh, there's no mitzvah anymore. You're bankrupt because mitzvahs have to be in Torah Shebiksav. So that is a question I wanted to ask you and share with you. Then I want to ask you one more question. I want to share with you one more point. Question is, what about Noshim? In the mitzvah's Kiddushin. What about Noshim in the mitzvah's Kiddushin? So, in the Siyum, I'm just sharing this with you now, and I've gone through various. I was always wondering. I'll just share with you my problem, then I'll show you my proof. I was always wondering what an Isha should answer when she's getting married. Should she answer Amen to Birch's Kiddushin? Because they make a B'rei Priyagofen, and the Masada Kiddushin is Moitzi in a B'rei Priyagofen. How she can Moitzi? How he can Moitzi? I'm not getting involved in that, okay? But he's Moitzi in a B'rei Priyagofen, okay? So she says Amen, and the Chassan also says Amen, okay? Now you have Birch's Kiddushin. So if the mitzvah is on the man, he should say Amen. If the mitzvah is not on the woman, she should not answer Amen. And if she does answer Amen, it's a hefsek. So I was always wondering about this, but then I found this Rambam. Okay? The Rambam Siyum Mitzvahs Aseh, the Rambam counts 14 mitzvahs that are chrechiyos, that noshim are pturos. Okay? And he counts the mitzvah chrechiyos, the mitzvah kiddushin. And he does not count Kiddushin is one of the 14 Enoshim P'turos. So the conclusion is that Noshim are chayiv in the mitzvah Kiddushin. But the Ma'aseh mitzvah is Aridei Ish, and she also is part of the mitzvah. Then, according to the Rambam, is very good, especially if you remember, we were talking about one of the proofs, or whether mitzvah v'yosem mishlucha, the Rambam learned that this taka mitzvah, but it also says in the Isha, the Isha Mishkadesh, in the beginning of second parak, then also in the Miskadeshes, it's mitzvah v'yosem mishlucha. So it's very good because the Isha also has a mitzvah. But the Ma'aseh mitzvah is the Ish. So according to this, there should be no problem of an Isha answering Omen. Okay, next. Now I have just one more point over here. The Rambam also was constantly reevaluating his opinion in terms of which kinyan and madaraisa and which are not. And in the Pirush Mishnayis in Kiddushin Perek Aleph Mishnah Aleph, shtar is also with the Sefer. The Ram Mishnah Torah and in Shuvos is of the opinion that shtar is min Torah, even though it's nilma from Drasha Sefer. So I pointed this out, but I'm going to talk more about Richus. In the Gemara Kiddushin Testament Beis, it's Muchach Mavur that there's another kinyan of Kiddushin besides Kinyan Kesef. There's another kinyan Kiddushin besides Kinyan Biyah. Because how you have a Nara Hamurasa, no Morsa, engaged means engaged to Kiddushin, who's Mizanet, who's a Nara Hamurasa HaBesula. Besula. The Nara Hamurasa Besula. Which if you're going to deny, you're only going to say there's one Kiddushin Biyah Deraisa, you don't have such a case. Because if Elis is Ton Biyah, she's not a Besula. And that the Gemara explains, even Biyah Shalakadalka, whatever the Gemara discusses. Okay. So l'cheira, what comes out is Maskonis HaGemara, the Kinyan Shtar is also Deraisa. So l'cheira, what comes out here is of the opinion that Kinyan Shtar is only with the Sefer. It's a drasha of Hekish Havaya Liyitzia. So here the question is, if you have a Heichocha from Torah Shebiksav that has to be like this, but the only way you know it is through a drasha, do you say it's Mefurish in Kha, or you don't say it's Mefurish in Kha? Dram Pirush Mishnai says that since the only way you can know about it is through Midas HaTorah, so it's not min HaTorah, even though willy-nilly you'll have to be. It's a crazy thing. But in the Mishnah Torah and in the Chuvos, he comes to the conclusion that if you can't understand Torah Shebiksav, even though you're going to use the drasha in order to understand Torah Shebiksav, but it's understandable, incomprehensible, so then it's also min HaTorah. Okay, next. This is the mitzvah Kiddushin. Now, I'm going to skip a little bit. We'll come back to it. I want to do the mitzvah of Onis. Reish Yud Ches. Mitzvah Ashmone Esrei Umosayim. He should siva ha'ines liṣā es anusasai. V'amo yis'ale v'lo yisiye li'isha tachas she'ino lo yuchal shalcha kol yom. So it says siva, and we'll see what the siva is. Liṣā es anusasai. Okay. Now, just in terms of Seder before we start, we mentioned before the Rambam mentioned the mitzvahs which are tluyos in kiddushin and nisuin, the normal kiddushin nisuin. And somehow we pointed out that Pri Riva is also involved in this. In the Rambam, we point out the Rambam the Shiltais. That's Reishud Beis, Reishud Gimel, Reishud Dalet is V'simach, which is also in Kiddushin Nisuin. Interesting, Mila is thrown into this, not for now. Then he has even Chalitza, which is another type of Nisuin and another type of Gerushin. And then he has the mitzvahs which are less frequent. The mitzvah of the mitzvah Nisuin of Oines, the Motzi Shemra, and then the mitzvah Mafuta, because Mafuta doesn't have a mitzvah to get married. Let's assume like that at the moment. Now, this mitzvah is l'cheira a regular mitzvah. I think it's an amal. Shetziva ha'oines liṣā es anusasai. Getting married with kiddushin without nisuin is nothing. The mitzvah is liṣā es anusasai. Mir mitzvah kotze, kote mitzvahs in Hilchos Na'ar B'sula, Hilchos Na'ar B'sula, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel. It's all nisuin. Mavu and chinuch is also like that, and Minchas Chinuch assumes like that in mitzvah Tov Kuf Nun Zayin, Tov Kuf Nun Ches. He'll put it all together. And the Rambam is discussing throughout this is only nisuin. It's nisuin. V'ama yisala v'lo siye liisha tachas she'ino lo yuchal shalcha kol yom. Anusasai is a pnuya shenensa shaloi l'ritzono, and it's nikva through chazaka. If besodei cheskasa shehitzaka the anusa, and if it's be'ir and we don't hear her screaming, the cheskas mefuteh achidu she anusa. As the Ram discusses barichus in Hilchos Na'ar B'sula, Perek Aleph Halacha Beis. The Ramban points out to the side that Oines is not nikva derech saka bedavka, but if you can have a chazok about a different Oines, it also would be okay. Okay to say that. The din of anusa is only by katan and nairo, as the Rama points out in Perek in Hilchos Na'ar B'sula, Perek Aleph Mishnah Ches. And the Ram is not interested in discussing this. It's part of the mitzvahs. We have this. First of all, I want to tell you something here. It says, lo yuchal shalcho kol yom. This is not an Ibn Tibin. He just has a very short version of a goymer, but since it's in the Ksav Yad, both in Kapach's Ksav Yad and in Ibn Yoav, and I think it's also in the in Bloch. So that's where I assume that it's the whole thing. So that's why, because the Chaylet's introduction to what continues, Ukfa boye Bigmo Makis, Shizeh Halav. How can you have Shizeh Halav? He has to quote it. Shizeh Halav Shel Onis, Shulo Yochol Shalcha, Hu Leisah Shekod Maseh. We'll see what that means. That it's logically, let's say, the mitzvah is lo siel lo liisha tachat anosתו, and then after he's married, lo yuchal l'shalchol kol yom. V'kach v'yomru lo yisaseh shekodmoi Aseh. It's a license called Aseh. Now let's go slowly. So the Rambam V'chel is bringing both the Aseh of marrying the Anusasai and the love of divorcing her. So but even you see, it has to be. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Even in Tibin, he stops like this. And Ibn Tibin goes like this. And Kol Yomov is in both Ibn Yoav and Bloch and Ibn and Kappa. Now, why is the Rambam quoted the Gemara Makis? Ukfa hisboy b'Gemara Makis, the Gemara of Makis, shezeh halav shel oines shelo cholu shalcha hu loy saseh shekod maseh. The Rambam is trying to prove that this is a mitzvah aseh min haminyan. Liṣā oines. And this is loy saseh shekod maseh. So it means there's an aseh over here. That the aseh precedes the lav. There's a mitzvah aseh to be married to her. And then there's an asol l'sgarish mimenu. And that's the more Makis happens to say with the kiyum aseh of lo tia liisha that you get married to a second time. There's no malchus. Afshova asol l'sgarish mimenu. But you understand yourself that there could be two reasons to quote Lav Shekod Aseh. You can quote Lav Shekod Aseh to prove it's an Aseh. And you should quote Lav Shekod Aseh to say there's no Malchus if he is Masakin the Lav. Okay? But you understand yourself that there's no place for discussion about whether there's Malchus or not, or why there's no Malchus in the mitzvah Aseh. It should only be in the Lav. And since the Ram is quoting it over here, in the mitzvah say, willy-nilly, his kavona is to prove there's a mitzvah in minyan mitzvahs. This also see, there's a problem. See, the question is, we have to think about it. Why is it the Rambam finds it necessary to prove there's a mitzvah in minyan mitzvahs? And maybe the Loshen loisiya, there's a state that doesn't tell you that you should do a certain pula. The question, what's bothering the Rambam that he needs to have a proof? Or he just, they're proving something. There also is something interesting over here. There's something else of interest. That this is both a Aseh and an Aseh. And maybe that is maybe this is might be the issue he's dealing with. If you recall, in Shiur Shishi, the Ram says that if you have a Aseh and a Lois Aseh, b'dova echod, you count the Aseh and the Lois Aseh separately. And he does quote in Shiur Shishi this case. And this is what you say, Lav Shekod Maseh, and you count twice. And this is this agreement with Rav Sadigoy. Now, more. Next, you have like this. The ma'anis is a psula. If you look at the parsha, I'm not just getting into Tersh B'Ksav. We look at the parsha. He is obligated to pay 50 shekel over here. He's obligated to marry her. It says, "V'nosan ho'isha shochei bimo lavi anayra chamishim kesef v'lo yisiya liisha tachas hasheino." In fact, the Ram Mishnah Torah quotes both. The Ram Mishnah Torah in Hilchos Nari Psula, besides the mitzvah Liso es Anusaso, he says the mitzvah say on the ma'anis the shalim chamishim shekel liav the father of the Anusaso. Hilchos Nari Psula Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph Mishapita Psula Kleinsin Oisai Mishkol chamishim Soy Shel Kesef Mezukok V'zehu Anikro Kanas V'chein im Onas Oisa V'Knas Zeh mitzvah say shel Torah shel shenema v'nosan o isha shoichi bimo le'avei anayich chamishim kesef, and also in Perek Avol Gimel koyfin oisai v'koynes noisin knas shenema v'lo yisiya leisha. So in context of that, Sochi and Godol, why does the Rambam leave out the chamishim shekel from this mitzvah? So one possibility, what you might suggest, we could suggest is that Tashlum Chamishim Shekel is a knas. The Rambam says this very clearly in the Chusnar Psula, Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, and it is an oynish on the Maisa Ha'oynis. The mitzvah is upon Bezdin Liknois es hama'anis.
Oh, okay.
The mitzvah of Lisa es ha'anusa is on the ma'anis, and the mitzvah of knas l'chayre is on Bezdin, because without Bezdin setting up the knas, there's nothing to talk about. On the other hand, it also says in the Torah, "V'nosan lavi'anayra," but l'chayra there's an obligation on Bezdin to set up the knas. In fact, if you look in the Platei mitzvahs of Naira B'sula, the Rambam says that the mitzvah is liknois hamafuta, not that the mafuta pays the kanas, but the mitzvah is on Bezdin to give the kanas. So, what happened to this mitzvah? Was on Bezdin, on the person, whatever it is? You know, what happened to it? Where did it disappear in Minyan HaMitzvos? See here, I like to say it fast, and Mitzvah Hashem will pick it up next time, a little bit more. The Ram Shirish Yudalit says that every different type of oynish is a mitzvah nifredis. Therefore, he's moing a separate mitzvah for Malkis and a separate mitzvah from each of the Dalar Mises Bezdin. And he also has a separate mitzvah of Knas, of Kefel, Chomesh, whatever. So maybe Knas of Chamishim Shekel, which is an Oynish Nifredes, maybe should be a mitzvah which is only counted once. And especially, I don't know, the question is, maybe when he says liknois hamafate, maybe the oynish of chamishim kesef of kesef is also included by the oynes. And the Ram is very clear in Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, if you recall, because he says v'knas ze mitzvah shel Torah shenemar v'nosan ho'ish, and he quotes the pasuk for the knas. Not the pasuk by Mafate, but the pasuk by Oines. So maybe it's all one mitzvah. And this is what he seems to say. Mitzvah saseh mishapita v'chulei shel z'misukov hu anikol knas v'chein im onas oisov v'knas ze mitzvah saseh shel Torah shenemar v'nosan. He's quoting the pasuk of the knas, which the mitzvah saseh that he quotes. He quotes Oines, Shenemar v'nosan ho'ish ha'sheichev imo lavi ha'nayra chamishim kesef. So this is all very nice. I'll ask you to look in the mitzvah saseh of Reish Chof, especially me in Akotza. He says, "Lo dun b'mefate b'chamishim shekel im sho dinov." So can you imagine putting Onis in the same category? Because he's talking about Shaldina, he's talking about the Pasha Bafate. So I don't know, we'll have to see. Mitzvah Hashem will pick this up next week or next time, whatever it will be.